Hello everyone and welcome to Chip and Chase, the NRL Fan Podcast. My name is Steve and my co-host is Dave. Hey Dave. Doing well. This is episode number 14 of our podcast, and in this 14th episode we're going to be covering the round 12 results of the 2022 NRL season before previewing the games for round 13, which is a split round because of State of Origin coming up. So we'll also take a look at the State of Origin squads named for both New South Wales and Queensland. Yeah, it's Origin time, and there's a few interesting things to talk about there as far as omissions and debutants. But before we get into any of that, let's get into yes, indeed. Before we get into that, let's cover what happened in Indigenous round, round 12 of the NRL season. There was some interesting results and some upsets and some big scores, but we'll get into all that, and we'll start with the first game of round 1. And I better turn off next week's games right there. Which one have I got there? There we go. Yeah, and all the Indigenous jerseys as well, celebrating the cultures of both the Indigenous people of Australia and New Zealand. And it's great, a celebration and a great week to recognise the input and just the wealth of talent that the Indigenous cultures bring to our game, both on and off the field. And the Storm and Manly game was the first game to kick off round 12 Indigenous round on Thursday, May 26th. And this was played at Amy Park in Melbourne, home of the Wurundjeri people, and it was a emphatic win to the Melbourne Storm, beating Manly 28-8. Genius. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. There was like 4 or 5 strips in this game from both teams, like the most ever, I think. They were just, both really on top of things. Yeah, big time. Munster. Yeah. Yeah, very good performance by the Storm. As I said, they rarely lose 3 in a row, and they're back off the back of 2 losses in a row. They were always going to be up for this one, especially in Melbourne, and as we mentioned with Jerome Hughes back. George Tafua there on the edge getting a try. He had a mixed bag of a game. Scoring a good try there, but then was found out a few times by the Melbourne attack, and especially with the strip off the tap of a 20-metre restart. You've just got the ball and then take a tap, and then you're not really awake, and next thing you know, they've stolen it off you and scored. Pretty... Exactly. So, and Xavier Coates, they're flying high. They get a lot of practice with the AFL people down there in Melbourne, and you can see it pays off dividends when it comes to kicks like these. Not just his height, but his ability to leap above the shoulders of most other players. So well done to Melbourne, getting back in the winner's circle, 28-8 against their rivals Manly. They've had some pretty classic matches in the past, but this one was pretty tame in comparison. Yeah, he did. Wow. And it was 12-4 at half-time, so Manly was still in this, but the second half, Melbourne ran away with it. Munster scoring 2 tries, and even Kenny Bromwich got in there with a try himself. So well done to Melbourne. Then we look ahead to the second game of the round, and this was the Panthers up against the Cowboys. 2 versus 3 on the ladder. This one was played at Bluebet Stadium in Penrith, the home of the Durag people, or Durag people, sorry I should say. Again, this one was 16-0 at half-time. The Panthers in front of a big crowd there with, just moving my graphics around here, 17,000, just over 17,000 fans. But the Panthers just, way too good, 22-0. And I guess probably the thing that Cleary, the coach, would be happiest about is the nil side of the scoreboard, because the Cowboys have shown that they're a pretty good attacking side in 2022, but the Panthers just shut them out. That's right. All the class. Yeah. And I guess that kind of shows the Cowboys where they are in this competition. They would have been thinking they were flying high, and that, coming up against the Panthers is going to be a good test to see just exactly where they were against the big teams in this competition. And while they didn't get flogged, not being able to score a point against the Panthers defensive team, they'll be disappointed in that. But, the class of the Panthers, Isaiah Yeo, Dylan Edwards, Brian To'o, Talon May, all getting tries, and Cleary steering them around the park, getting two of his conversions, while Stephen Crichton also had another kick when Cleary, I think, was rested late in the game. So, and it was all first half, really, because there was only that one try in the second half by the Panthers. That was the only score in the second half. It was 16-0 at half time. Yeah. Wow. Well done to the Panthers, going swimmingly, and it'll be interesting to see how they fare over the Origin period with some players missing for representative duties. But we push on to the third game of the round. This was Broncos up against the Titans. High scoring game, with the Broncos taking it out 35-24. This one played at Suncorp Stadium, in home of the Yagera and Turrbal people, or Turrbal people, I should say. Apologies for the mispronunciations. Just trying to recognise the Indigenous tribes of Indigenous round. And this one, a pretty good attendance once again, 32,864 for what's a local derby there. And there were plenty of points on offer for the fans to celebrate with the scores. Well, it was all Titans in the first half, leading 24-4, and you thought, that's it, it's over and done with. Titans are going to go away with this. Broncos without Reynolds just don't have it, but Broncos, big comeback, and were able to really show up the Titans and put on a big score. Yeah, a bit of... Yeah, but contract doesn't mean that much anymore, does it? Which is disappointing. From a fan's point of view, you would hope that while you're contracted to a team, that you will see out your contract and play to the best of your ability. And not that he didn't play well, he had a pretty good game and was pretty instrumental in this victory for the Broncos. But yeah, every time he took the ball up, the crowd was booing him, and it was relentless throughout the whole game. No matter what he did or how hard he tried, they weren't having a bar of it. But as I said, yeah, he took it in his stride. I thought the Fasil Malawi was huge for the Titans. Tino was just everywhere for him, and he was disappointed in his game at the end of the at post-game interview was saying that he felt disappointed in his effort, especially in the second half. But really, there's so many other players. There's 16 other players in the squad that have got to stand up and show what they're made of. Because he was running, the amount of runs he made. Do you have the stats there? Wow. Yeah, it's good to see. Yep. I was really impressed with his defense. He had big, what's his name? David Fafita running at him all game. And the amount of times he brought him down with a copybook legs tackle was so impressive for a small guy. It really nullified a lot of what Fafita can do. But the Broncos, they just kind of put it all together in the second half. Tony Staggs was kicking them from everywhere on the field. Selwyn Cobbo was just dynamite, and as you said, Tamaro Martin really coming back in some great form. And it's so good to see him doing so well. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit, probably a little bit soft. I didn't think he necessarily deserved a sin bin. Probably, definitely a penalty warranted. And then same thing for the Titans. You had Sam McIntyre. I thought his sin binning was probably a little bit soft, but then Asan Masters on the goal line holding down intentionally, he deserved a sin bin. But 3 sin bins in this game. But nevertheless, I thought that the teams both still decided the result rather than the referee. And the Broncos running away 35-24 in the end was really impressive from them coming back from 24-4 down. Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think sin bins should probably be kept for uh, professional fouls, yeah, rather than any high tackles or things like that with a bit of he said whiplash or whatever. The late shots are not necessarily professional fouls because they're not that late when you play them in full speed. You've got to really judge them on how they're played at game pace. So I thought that was a little bit hard. A little bit hard done by on that one, as you mentioned for Jordan Ricky. So. Uh, Yeah, exactly. Just to ruin a few people's for and against, or their picked by the margins, or whatever they might be betting on for that. But so well done to the Broncos. Massive comeback for them. That'll be one that they'll be able to look back on and go, remember when we came down from that 24-4, we'll be able to do it again. So I think they'll gain a lot out of that. All right, then the next game of the round was the Warriors up against the Newcastle Knights. This was one that I got wrong in my tips. I was disappointed in the Warriors' efforts here. This was played at Moreton Daily Stadium in Redcliffe, home of the Agera, Jinnaburra and Kabi peoples, in front of a crowd of very low crowd of 4,265 fans. This was 12 all at halftime, anyone's game, but then the Knights just were able to play for longer than the Warriors. The Warriors have this problem, as do most of the teams in the lower half of the table, of not being able to play for a full 80 minutes. And this was the case for the Warriors. They really were still in it well and truly for most of the game, but just weren't able to go with the Knights for the full 80 minutes, and the Knights just did enough, scoring a couple of late tries. One in the 68th minute from Anari Tawala, his second, that really sealed the game for the Knights. Yeah, well, they scored the first 2 tries through Pompey and Valia. Yeah. Yep. He's been playing well for the Knights. Yeah. The kicking was a problem for him. Reece Walsh only able to get 1 out of 3, and then also got another penalty goal on top where Jay Clifford got 4 out of 4. So add 2 more goals in, and it's like takes you up to much closer, and that could have made been a sticking point for the Warriors to be able to kick on. But well done to the Knights. Wins are hard to come by for them this season. And for them to go to Redcliffe and get the victory is pretty impressive. So well done, and they ruined my tips there. I got that one wrong. Did you tip the Knights or did you tip the Warriors? Yeah, so we both got that one wrong. All right, then the game that I was at, which was the Saturday evenings, the second game of Saturday. And that was the Rabbitohs up against the Tigers. This was played at Accor Stadium, home of the Wongal people. And this was a game of 2 halves, as they always say in the classics. The Tigers led 18-12 at half time and really kind of had South's measure for most of that first half. But don't know what happened to them in the second half. South just came out firing and put on a pile of points. This was an intercept that was disappointing, and really got the Tigers on the front foot after Souths were pressuring them on their goal line. But the Tigers found Souths out on our right edge with some left edge attack, and the second half, it was the Alex Johnson show. I was really pleased for Alex Johnson to get that South Sydney record of the most tries for South Sydney in the club's history. Getting over the top of Nathan Merritt's record, and he's still got a couple more seasons left for him in his contract. To think that the club were going to let him go a couple of seasons ago, if not for a South Sydney fan petition to keep him at the club, he could have been going elsewhere. So really happy that he's stuck around for the presentation at the end of the game, where he got the game ball in recognition of this great ability to score tries. And happy for the 13,585 people that were there to watch this one. You were with me, Dave. Yes, you came along as a non-supporter of either team. You wore a Rabbitohs cap, which I'm sure gave you a rash on your head to do that. But as a Neil supporter, but yeah, it was good to be there together and watch this one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he could. If he keeps up, I think about 17 tries a season or something along those lines, he could end up with the actual record of the NRL for most tries scored ever. But he's got a long way to go. He's got another 4 seasons or something at that kind of level to be able to get. That's how far ahead I can't remember who the leading try scorer is in the in history of rugby league, but the name escapes me at the moment. But it was impressive second half by South, putting on a pile of points. Really happy with the 44-18 victory. Yeah. He was. Yeah, so I agree with Campbell Graham, and it was great to have Cam Murray back, our skipper and our lock. He really leads the way in the middle. Mark Nichols as well, back from injury. So yeah, getting a few troops back really helped South. It was an impressive effort and great to be there for that try that just right there made the record as we watch the South players celebrate with Alex Johnson. So well done to the Rabbitohs on that victory. Yes, it was a good game. All good. My pleasure. All right, then the 6th game of the round for round 12 was the Roosters up against the Sharks. This was the last of the Saturday games in front of 11,500 people at PointsBet Stadium there, home of the Dharawal people. And this was another tip that I got wrong. I was sure that the Sharks would be able to come out and take the measure of the Roosters. But the Roosters proved too classy once again, and were able to put on some early tries. Daniel Tupou getting a double to beat the Sharks 36-16 at the Sharks' home ground. Yeah. Well, they were down by 20-0 at half time, and it just looked like it could be Roosters by how many. But as you said, the Sharks rallied late, or in the middle of that second half, scored 2 tries in 5 minutes, 64th and 69th minute. Another one in the 55th earlier on. But so those 3 tries kind of brought them back a little bit. But then, as you said, late in the game, Roosters through Joseph Manu, Connor Watson, both got tries in the last 10 minutes of the game to seal the deal and paved the victory for the Roosters 36-16. And I thought Roosters there wasn't really a big standout for me. Tedesco's always a great player, and it's like he's got spiders on him sometimes. Nobody wants to put a hand on him. But the Roosters as a whole played well as a team, and they're the kind of victories I think as a coach you're happy to see when it's a team victory rather than just individual players standing out. Indeed. All right, so that was Game 6 of the round, and then we move on to Game 7, which was the Bulldogs up against the Dragons. I wasn't able to watch this one in full. I was out coaching my junior rugby league team when this was on, but I caught the mini on Fox League later on that evening. This was the Sunday afternoon game, played at Belmore Sports Ground. They call it one of the 8th wonder of the world. I kind of don't know, between them and Leichhardt Oval, they're trying to claim those. But it's great to be back in the suburban grounds, and 16,991 fans there. It would have been a buzzing atmosphere, home of the Darug, Eora and Bediagal people. This was a close affair, not much defence for a scoreline of 34-24, but the Dragons proving too good against the Bulldogs, and it was 16-6 at half time to the Dragons, so kind of stayed that way. They had the measure of the Bulldogs for the majority of the game. I tipped the Dragons, so I got this one right. Yeah. Wow. So 34-24, the final score, 6 tries to 4. Averillo getting a double for the Dogs, and the Dragons sharing the tries around, with Lomax getting 5 of 6 conversions, and there was also a penalty goal for the Bulldogs, Burton getting 3 from 4 with a penalty as well added to that, for a 34-24 scoreline. So very good. So that was the Dogs up against the Dragons, and now for the final game of round 12, and this was the one that you actually travelled all the way down to Canberra for, and yes, you can see the Eels logo there for you. This one was a excellent and exciting game, a high quality game at GIO Stadium in Canberra, home of the Ngawal people, and this was a 16,244 strong crowd. Were entertained from beginning to end, with the Eels taking out a close victory, 28-20, against the Canberra Raiders. nation's capital. It's a gun. Yeah. Well, this was 18-16 to the Raiders at half time, so it was anyone's game. And then in the second half, you had, I know you haven't had that big a rap on him this season, but Bailey Simonson coming up against his own old team really stood up, scored a double, as did Dylan Brown, as you mentioned. And yeah, yeah, indeed. And so it was a highly entertaining game. And the Parramatta Eels, really stood up and showed that they can, stick to a 80-minute game plan and put it all together when they need to, and not panic. It looked like Dylan Brown might have missed the second half because leading into the first half, he looked a bit injured, or into the break, and from what the commentators were saying, it looked pretty bad. But he managed to push through, and whatever injury he had didn't hold him back, and he continued on and had a great full 80 minutes. Yeah. There you go. So well done to the Parramatta Eels getting a victory there. The final game of round 12. And so we look now to the ladder to see where everything's at. And here you have it. You have the Panthers sitting pretty on first place, 4 points clear of the Melbourne Storm, who are 2 points clear of both, or I should say the Cowboys, the Broncos and the Eels. Eels just out of 4 on 4 and against, and then you've got the Roosters and the Sharks on 14 points, and the Rabbitohs holding on to 8th spot with 12 points, as are the Dragons on 12 points, so they're just out of the 8 on 4 and against. Then you've got the Raiders and Manly on 10 points, the Warriors and Newcastle Knights on 8 points, and then you've got the Titans and Tigers both on 6, and the Bulldogs still hanging on to the bottom of the ladder on 4 points, as we move into what will be a split round in round 13 as we prepare for State of Origin. So let's have a look at what games are going to be taking place in this split round. We've got only 4 games, and the first of those is just bringing up the whoops, too many graphics there in the one thing. We've got the Titans taking on the Cowboys. This will be played at Cbus Super Stadium on Thursday, the 2nd of June at 10 to 8. And I can only see a Cowboys victory here. I don't think they're missing too many players, the Cowboys. We'll have to go through those in a second, but I still think even so that they will be too strong for the Gold Coast Titans. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Fair enough. I think the Cowboys will be smarting after losing last week against the Chooks, so I think they'll want to bounce back, and they would be disappointed if they lost against the Titans, but fair enough. There you go. Yeah, so you might as well. Then the game, as you said, that will probably be affected most by the Origin selections is the Friday night 7:55 p.m. game. Penrith up against the Bulldogs, 1st versus 16th, played at Bluebet Stadium in Penrith. If you're a Bulldog supporter, you'd be wanting to play the Panthers at this time of the year because they will be missing the core of their team. Like you've got Cleary, you've got Luai, you've got To'o, you've got Yo, you've got I don't know who else they've got missing out of the team, but and then you got Addo-Carr not making the Blues squad. He'll be smarting about that. Want to be putting on a big performance and showing Freddie that he made an error by not selecting him. So he could be up for a big one this week. But I still think the Panthers have got enough depth to be able to cover for their Origin stars. Yes, it is. Yeah, that next man up mentality out at Penrith. Okay, so there we have it. That's that game. And then Manly up against the New Zealand Warriors. Again, another play here will be pretty disappointed at missing out at a State of Origin selection, and that is Jake Trbojevic. He has done nothing wrong at Manly. His defence has been so impressive. Even though Manly have been hit and miss a little bit. Obviously, Tom's missing for Manly, and he won't obviously make Origin selection either. But 11th versus 12th, Cherry Evans will be missing for Manly, playing for the Maroons. Warriors won't have too much disruption to their team, if any. This could be a dodgy one for Manly. This could be, a danger game with Cherry Evans out. I still think Foran has enough smarts in there to be able to cover for him. So I'm still going to go for Manly, but just. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right, and then the only other game for round 13, the split round for this weekend, coming is the Sunday 4:05 p.m. game between the Raiders and the Roosters. This will be a tough one to pick. 10th versus 6th at GIO Stadium in Canberra. Both teams affected by Origin selections. Obviously, you got Tedesco, Suwali, and can't think of other players for the Roosters. But then Whitens for Canberra, is a big out for them. So I still think the Roosters, they've got, other than Tedesco missing at the back, they've still got their classy halfbacks, and they'll probably be able to manufacture a victory here. Even though it is at Canberra, it'll be another close one. I'm going Roosters. Okay, all right. So that's the 4 games that will be played in round 13 of the split round affected by Origin. So let's, talking about Origin, have a look at the squads for both the Blues and the Maroons. And here is the squad that Freddie Fittler has picked. It's not in any particular order. Well, it is in alphabetical order by surname, which kind of, Regan Campbell-Gillard is not playing fullback. He's not listed number 1 there because he's playing fullback. But it's good to see that he got selected. You've got Nathan Cleary, obviously. Damien Cook holding on to his hooker position, although Coruscant is named in there as well. Stephen Crichton gets one of the centre positions for the Blues with the absence of Tom Trbojevic and Latrell Mitchell. Tyson Frizzell, I think, was lucky to hold on to his position there, playing in the Knights outfit, who haven't been doing well. I think Addo-Carr, if that was the reason he missed out because the Bulldogs haven't been going well, then Frizzell is lucky because, he's been playing all right, but so has Addo-Carr. Yeah, they don't do that. That's a Maroons thing. Then you got Payne Haas, holds on to his origin spot. Nico Hines is a great inclusion. I think he's well deserving of that. As I mentioned, Api Coruscant. Jerome Luai, of course, the halves partner with Nathan Cleary. Liam Martin from the Panthers also getting a call-up. Ryan Madison, also from the Eels, making an origin appearance. Cameron Murray from the Rabbitohs, fit enough now to play. We thought he might miss it with injury, but came back for the Rabbitohs in time to be able to get selected again for the Blues. Junior Paulo there from the Eels. Jacob Saifiti, another one who I think is lucky to be in that. Daniel Saifiti, wasn't he the one that was in there before? Or has there always been Jacob out of the two brothers? I can never tell them apart. Daniel. Yeah. Tariq Sims is another one from the Knights who's lucky to be holding on to his origin spot because, as I said, the Knights haven't been going that well. Katoni Staggs is the other centre that takes the spot available through the injury. I think that's a great selection. Joseph Suwali is a surprise one for me. I know last year players like Kaloa Matangi from South and Campbell Graham from South got called in to be on an extended kind of bench to be part of that origin experience. So that's the only thing I can think of for Suwali, but he's still a young man and has plenty of opportunities. So I think guys like Campbell Graham would be kind of stinging to miss out on that inclusion. Well, whether he actually gets any game time, I don't know. He could just be in that squad as part of the train on, like Kaloa Matangi was last year. It's just give him that origin taste. No, I don't think he'll be named in the actual team. I think we've got the actual team listed, but we'll get that in a second. Then you got James Tedesco, of course, fullback and captain. Brian Toto holding onto a wing spot. Daniel Tupu from the Roosters also on the other wing. Jack Whiten being that kind of 14th man position. And Isaiah Yeo, obviously, he's probably the first pick, if you ask me, a classic player. And the Blues team for Game 1 has been announced. It is James Tedesco at fullback and captain, Brian Toto on one wing, Daniel Tupu on the other wing. The centres are actually Katoni Staggs and Jack Whiten. So Jack Whiten actually comes into the starting team. Jerome Luai and Cleary are the 5'8" and halfback. Payne Haas and Junior Paulo are the front rowers with Damien Cook hooking in the scrum. You got Cameron Murray in the second row with Tariq Sims and Isaiah Yeo as the lock. And then you've got the bench is Steve Crichton, Liam Martin, Regan Campbell-Gillard and Ryan Madison, Nico Hines, Tyson Frizzell, Jacob Saifiti, Joseph Suwali and Api Coruscant make up the extended bench with coach Brad Fittler. So not bad team. A little bit interesting. As I said, yes. So we've got 14, 15, 16, 17 are Crichton, Martin, Campbell-Gillard and Madison. So they're going with Crichton as a kind of stopgap measure as a back, and then Liam Martin, Campbell-Gillard and Ryan Madison, I guess, as the forwards, and Nico Hines as 18th man if there's an injury or like a head knock kind of HIA situation. Yeah. All right, so now we look at the Maroons and seeing what they've picked, and you've got their 22-man squad in not in alphabetical order. They've named them the 22 in order of their playing positions. Kalen Ponga, Selwyn Cobbo, and then the centres are Valentine Holmes and Dane Gagai. Xavier Coates on the other wing. So some pretty fast and tall players. You can see they'll be probably kicking to our edges with Coates and Cobbo. And then you got Cameron Munster and Daly Cherry Evans in the halves. Tina Sulma Malaawi as the front row with Josh Papali'i. Ben Hunt in the hooking role. And then you've got Kurt Capewell, Felice Kafusi in the second row with Ruben Cotter as the lock. The extended bench they've named Harry Grant, Lindsay Collins, Patrick Carrigan, Jeremiah Nanai, Tom Dearden, Jai Arrow, Thomas Flegler, Hamasau Tabiwai Fado, and Murray Tuolangi. So some 4 debutants there for the Maroons, for the Queensland side. So well done to those guys on their inclusion. And it's a pretty strong side as well. Interesting to see Ben Hunt playing hooker. But then they've also got Harry Grant on the bench. So if at any stage, Harry Grant can come on to play in that position, and put Ben Hunt as a kind of ball playing lock or whatever. I don't know what they'll decide. Yeah, so the Blues are still favourites, starting favourites on the betting market, but this will be closer than I think a lot of people give the Maroons credit for. So looking forward to seeing the State of Origin game played on Wednesday, the 8th of June. We'll go through and look at that when we look at next week's games in Monday's podcast. But for now, that's the wrap-up for the NRL Fan Podcast Chip and Chase. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for continuing to watch and listen. And we'll be back next week, Dave and I, on Monday night to review the 4 games for the upcoming split round, and then preview the State of Origin game and the rest of the round 13 games in the 4 games that we played next weekend. Look forward to having your company then. Thanks, Dave. Yep. Thanks, Dave. Take care, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.